What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fulfillment Podcast. I'm your host, Josh, and we discover better you by finding fulfillment in life, relationships, and finance. This one's going to be, kind of a mixture of both of those. So get out of your own way, right? Get out of your own head. Let yourself do what you're supposed to do. So however that feels, I really feel like it kind of falls into both of those, but it speaks to everything. So with that being said, let's get into this episode and get things started. All right, so getting out of your own way. And getting out of your own head, what does that mean? I think we all understand really what it is and what it does mean. And it's, you gotta think of things, so like me personally, right? I'll give you a story about myself because I think stories are always a really good way to connect with people and to share an experience or something that you've had. But in terms of me getting out of my own way, right? I knew that when I broke up with my last girlfriend, that there was this journey that I needed to go on. And in order to do it, I had to be alone, right? I had to be by myself, not single, but alone. Like genuinely just by myself and figuring shit out on your own. And in order to get to that peak version of who I was, right? That new version of Josh, in order to get there, I had to be alone. And there's a couple other things I had to do, right? I knew I wanted to work out a lot because I wanted to attract somebody that was physically fit and attractive. And I knew that I needed to be mentally stable and secure with me and who I was in my own life. And if I wanted to attract somebody that was that way in their life, then I had to do that myself. So in order to attract a high value woman, I had to also become a high value guy, right? So I knew that in order to get there, I had to get out of my own way. I had to get out of my own head of this thing that I couldn't become or couldn't do just because it wasn't me or whatever narrative I was telling myself. I had to stop that, and I had to move myself out of that position and allow myself to just grow naturally, right? And I know I talk a lot about like having no expectations and going into things, free and open-minded, because if you set an expectation, you're also setting the stage for disappointment, right? Because you set the expectation of what you want something to be or how you're expecting it to go. And you have to get out of your head that that's the way it has to be, that you're open to flow. You can be open to things going differently than the way that you had predicted, right? I think we always get set in this mindset of things have to be a certain way, right? Josh has to be who Josh is going to be. No, it's not true. There's so many different ways and avenues and methods that you can get to where you want to be without things being the way you play it out in your head. There's a phrase that we say in the Army, especially in the planning sequence, that no plan survives first contact. And it couldn't be more true with life as well. When you're looking at relationships, when you're looking at finances and businesses and entrepreneurship and just your own personal jobs and what you're doing there, like things never go the way that we plan, right? It doesn't. It's always good to have some sort of plan, but other than that, like just execute on what you have. And I think I've learned this to be incredibly invaluable when you're looking at who you think you're supposed to be, who other people are supposed to be around you, who your spouse or significant other is supposed to be in your life, right? All these different things. When you get out of your own way and you accept that things can happen the way they're supposed to, rather than the way that you predict them to be, or the expectation that we set for ourselves. When you get out of your own way and you let that stuff flow and you let it just be the way it's meant to be, that's going to always be the best version of whatever it is you're doing. If you go on the date, right, I always refer back to this dating concept of if you go out on the date and you set this expectation for this girl has to be the most beautiful person that you've ever talked to, and then you get there and she's not, right, you're going to be disappointed and you're probably going to be sad or miserable or angry, upset about it. Well, if you go in it with no expectation, just go in there to have a good time and, you're open to whatever happens, it's going to be a fun time. I'm not set that she has to be the one or she has to be perfect or any of this stuff. And you go and you just have fun. And the cool thing is when you start to realize that, right, when you start to put yourself in this Taoism, this state of flow, you start understanding that the universe is picking the best path. So while you may go, and that may not be somebody that you want to be with, right, you're still learning something from it, right? That's one less person that's not right for you on your journey to find the person that is right for you. And what's cool about it is that it puts you in this, and I've talked about it before, but it puts you in this abundance mindset. It puts you in this mindset that things happen to you and there's no limited quantity. There's no scarce resource of reoccurrences, right? So when you talk about going on a date with somebody, right, there's not this mindset of it has to be this person because there's no one else that is going to fit this, right? We're running out of people and there's no one left. Well, when you're in abundance mindset, you realize that's not the case. That's one less person. You've met one more person that isn't who you want to be with, and you're learning little things as you go along the way, right? Oh, okay, well, maybe I learned how to talk a little bit better, or I learned how to be less nervous about this, or I helped somebody else, right? Maybe it's not all about you. Think about someone else, right? I just talked to somebody. It's funny because I end up on these dating apps, and I actually help more people than I even try and end up meeting and going on dates and stuff. But it's funny because I talked, and she had just gotten out of like a difficult relationship and was hanging on to it, and it was of this very scarcity mindset that she's never going to find someone again. And I'm like, well, you clearly have some like growing to do. You need to learn to become comfortable by yourself. And you have a scarcity mindset, which I did too, right? I was very much of a scarcity mindset when I first got out of my marriage, and it was, trying to figure out who I was and be alone for the first time in forever and all this stuff, right? I was scarcity. I was like, oh my God, girls get uglier as they get older, and all the cute ones are gone now and all this stuff, right? And I'm just running myself into this like catastrophic scenario of, the doomsday, I'll never find anybody. But it couldn't be further from the truth. You're going to find confirmation bias plays a role in everything we do. And you're going to find what you're looking for. If I think in my head, all the cute girls are gone and they get uglier when they go, the older they get, so there is no hope, then I'm going to start living that life and I'm going to live that narrative. But I can tell you for sure, I have very much shifted my mindset, and I have a very strong abundance mindset now. And I can tell you I've met nothing but beautiful women ever since. And the funny thing is now they're all, well, generally speaking, 2 years older than where I was when I first got out of the divorce, right? 2 to 3 years older. So it's very, very different. It's a very different mindset. And I start seeing things different, right? When I start going into this and I'm like, oh, there are so many just beautiful girls out here, right? Now, every girl I'm coming across, I'm like, wow, you're actually pretty cute. Like, oh, you're pretty cute too. Like, wow, you're an awesome person. Like, you start meeting all these really cute and cool people. And the same thing plays into anything that you're doing, right? You have to shift your mindset first to get to the point where you deep inside yourself believe that what you're doing is true, right? Because if you don't believe it, then it's not happening. You can affirm and you can tell yourself and all this stuff, but if your inner subconscious does not believe it, then it's not going to happen, right? You're not fully in that state, almost like you're lying to yourself, right? So what you have to do is you have to get yourself to the point where you genuinely believe it, and the way you do that is you live it. Right? You live it, you trust it, and you become comfortable with who you are. And that's part of the whole, like, getting out of your own way and allowing kind of like the universe to take over. Just stay on your path. That's all you have to do. Stay on your path, and everything's going to fall into it the way it's supposed to. Exactly at the right time, exactly when you've learned the lessons you're supposed to learn. You just have to learn to keep with it. You have, again, remember, you have this expectation that you're setting for yourself of when things are supposed to happen. When you let go of those expectations, when you let go of that sequence that you plan for yourself in your head, I have to meet somebody by this age and I have to have kids and all that stuff. No. When you let that stuff go, you open the opportunity for all these amazing things to pour into your life. And they're all going to happen at the right time. Right? I was dead set on, I have to figure myself out in 6 months. I have to spend at least 9 months alone. And then at that point, I'd be ready to go. Well, here I am over a year of being alone. And I still feel like I'm trying to figure myself out and learn different things and all this stuff. Cool thing is I know that I'm getting close, right? I know that I'm on my path and I'm on the proper journey that I'm supposed to be on. And I'm learning all the things that I'm supposed to be learning. Like it's funny because when you start to really love who you are and the life path that you're on, when you start to get to that point where you truly start embracing it, you almost get to the point where you're like, you know what, all those things that I thought I wanted, like, I don't. Let me just focus on me, and I'm just going to stay in my own zone, and then everything like will happen when it's supposed to happen, but I'm not going to go out there search for it, because if I do, I may mess up like the divine timing of everything. everything's got this divine sequence of where it's going to happen. And if I go out there and start injecting myself into things, I may mess that up. Now, I'm not saying being a hermit and don't ever go out and interact with people. Don't do it with the intention that it has to be what you're thinking it has to be, right? Don't do it with the intention that this has to be the person I'm going to meet, or this has to be somebody that I'm going to try and date, or whatever, right? You go out, you meet people, you have drinks, but you do it with the intention of this person's going to be a friend of mine, or this person's just going to be somebody that we're just going to hang out with, and we're going to get drinks every now and then. They're a cool person to be around, right? I'm not into it to get into a relationship. I'm not into it to it become something, right? A client or a relationship or a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You're just doing it more or less to continue to interact and go with the flow of the universe, right? If somebody's like, hey, let's grab a drink, you're like, yeah, sure. With no intentions, right? Have no intentions. Have no expectations of what you want it to be. Go out there, get a drink, have fun, be social, and then, just let the night kind of continue to just go. I mean, half the time you just go back to your place and start nugging away because you got more stuff on your plate, right? More things that you want to do, which is good, right? You need to find your passion and stay in your passion, because the more you focus on yourself and the important things to yourself, the more that you can allow the universe to do its job, right? You can allow God to do its job or his job and focus on you and take care of you the way that he can do, whereas you can focus on yourself and improve yourself and, work on all the gifts and talents that you've been given and making the most of those. Because when you do that, that's when you'll be able to help other people. So definitely think about the way that you've been inside of your own head, the way that you've been in your own way, and learn to let go of all these stresses that you've been creating for yourself in your own world, right? We think about trying to hit monthly sales targets and trying to hit, all these goals we set for ourselves and stuff. It's great. Setting goals is great. It's absolutely imperative to see success and see growth over time, right? You set a goal, you try and hit it. If you don't hit it, then you fell short, but at least you're better than where you were before, right? The art of Kaizen, doing small things over a period of time to improve little bits each day. So every day, as long as you're improving, you're growing, right? And when you look at yourself over the course of the next year or 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years, right? You're going to be a drastically different person. You're going to be incredibly changed. But when you start to let go of these things and allow that, hey, I didn't hit it, but that's where I'm supposed to be, right? I gave it my all, and that's literally the most important thing. And now I'm a better person than who I was before. I've learned all of these things through this journey. Now I'm a better person. That's why they say the journey is more important than the end result. It's because you learn so much through the journey than you do when you actually get to the result at the end. When an army fights another army, right? If it's a short, swift victory and the battle is quick, right? Think about like a medieval battle on a battlefield, and the battle is quick. Does that army, does the generals, do the leaders, do the soldiers, do they learn a lot if they just roll up and roll over their enemy? No, they don't. They probably get confidence and arrogance that they're just all this and so much more better than their enemies, right? Which is good. However, think about the reverse of that. Think of it's a long, hard-fought battle. A lot of people die, a lot of casualties and all this stuff. Do you think the reward at the end of the long, hard-fought battle that takes, maybe days and days of just fighting and grinding, as opposed to just a few hours of a swift roll-up, do you think the one that takes the days and days is going to be more of a victory to everybody that wins, as opposed to the one that's not? Absolutely, right? The question, it's not even a question. When you fight hard and you go through something very difficult and you come out the other side and you see the victory at the end, it's incredibly more valuable than it is if it's quick, swift, and over in an instant, right? While it gives you the confidence to know that you're good and better, you don't really learn much, do you? So the same thing plays in life, right? If you're going through this journey and you want to get to the point where you have a beautiful family and you have a good job, or maybe you're hitting these pay raises, or maybe you want to make, $100,000 or $1 million, or whatever your targets and goals may be. Think about what's going to be more valuable. The end result, if your goal is to hit $1 million in a year, right? 83, 33, 33 every month. If your goal is to hit $1 million in a year and you wake up tomorrow and boom, you got $1 million in your bank account, do you think, in terms of how different of a person you will be, do you think you would be a drastically changed person? Probably not. You're probably going to be very surprised. You're going to be like, holy shit, I got $1 million. Now what? You're probably going to have like that. Whereas if over the course of the next year, you do all of these things, you try and start businesses, you try and buy houses, you try and collaborate with partners, you try and do all these things, you work your butt off at your job, right? Maybe you're a real estate agent and you're just trying to sell some homes and, whatever it is, right? You work your ass off. And then you grind and you go through some turmoil. Some things don't work, but then some things do, and then something takes off, and then you can grind through that, and you figure out the secret to success. And then after the course of over a year, maybe you hit 950,000, right? You're not quite at 1 million, but you were kind of close. You didn't hit your goal, but you were there. Which one do you think you're going to learn more from? You're probably going to learn more from the second one, right? You didn't quite hit your goal. You didn't quite hit exactly what you wanted to. Your goals were set, but you didn't quite make it there. But I can tell you what, you're going to be a hell of a lot better off in that second scenario than you would the first one where you were just handed what you wanted, right? It's drastically different. And that's the whole concept of understanding that the universe has its path set for you. It may look hard, it may look difficult, but you're going to learn so much more, and you're going to become such a drastically different and changed person for the better, right? If you do it with positive energy and with positive intention, you're going to do it for the better. Remember, get away from the negative victim mindset. Do this towards the gratitude mindset, and you're going to be using positive energy to do it, and you're going to be growing positively. So you're going to be such a different person because of all the things you've learned over the course of the last year. The universe has taken you on this incredible journey that has taught you all the skills and all the talents and all the lessons that you've needed to learn to get you to where you are now, so that you can use those to become and to help and grow maybe somebody else, or maybe your business, or maybe your relationship. You can use it to fight through these difficult times and to understand and appreciate and be grateful for all of the good things that happen. And you can give that lesson, you can give that energy, and you can give that the knowledge and the understanding that you have to other people around you, and maybe you can help them on their own difficult, long journey. And think about how much more valuable that is than you just waking up and having exactly what you want. It's incredible, right? And when we think about that, we start to appreciate sometimes there's struggles that we go through, right? Sometimes there's difficult things. There's stuff that happens in our life. There's things that we wish weren't going on, but it's all part of this lesson, this journey that we're on, that is going to teach us and cultivate us into a better person, a more valuable person to life, society, and to ourselves. And when you can bring that, when you can understand that, right? And I understand that now. Before I didn't, right? I will say 6 months to a year ago, I did not understand this. But now looking at it, right? I know that I don't need a relationship anymore, whereas before I wanted one, right? And now I'm like, it'll come when it's supposed to come. But until it does, there's a lot of things that I need to do in my own life, because I am only creating a better me as time goes on. And what's cool about that is you understand that if I'm creating a better me and becoming this better person, and you attract what you are, right? Who you are attracts what you want. Then that means the person that I'm becoming as I'm going through all of this, and as I'm learning these things, and I'm going through, kind of all these ups and these downs and these lessons, and all this growth, as I'm growing as a person, so too is the other person that I'm going to attract on their own specific and internal journey. They're going through very similar things. They're becoming a person that is going to bring the same amount of value, right? As long as I hold off and don't settle for something that's less than what I deserve and what I want, I'm going to end up with somebody that brings value to my life to such a degree that it's going to only enhance everything that's happening for both her and I, right? And you have to understand that. And then when you do understand that, when all this stuff starts sinking in, I think what happens is you take an incredibly deep breath and you relax and you allow. And it's almost like that song, Jesus Take the Wheel, right? You allow the universe to just take over on your life, and you just go along and you play this game. You participate, and you continue to grow, and you continue to learn, and you continue to become this more perfect being as life continues to go on in its journey. And we're all at different places in our journey. So don't ever compare yourself, right? There's a big thing too. Don't ever compare yourself to where you are in your journey to someone else in their journey, right? I may be further along in mine than where you are in yours. But use people that are further along to catapult yourself and to learn lessons from them to continue to grow yourself, right? Don't ever look and be like, oh, that guy's so much better off, or he's so much further along, or he's been more successful, because you don't see the lessons and the journeys that he's gone through, right? I know I've explained and stuff, and I've had the first podcast episode kind of talks about it and stuff, but I've had a pretty difficult journey. I will say my journey has not been easy. There has been a lot of downs before ups, but at the same time, now look what I'm able to do with all those things that I've learned. I'm able to put stuff out, and I'm able to teach, and I'm able to coach along clients and individuals that need my help and need my expertise and are at a different stage in their journey than I am in mine. And I can help bring them along and help them understand that this is all part of a bigger picture. There's a bigger picture that's happening in your life, right? It's that hindsight. When I look back over the last 3 years of my life, I can be like, holy shit, I can almost see now how I was being set up and how I was being staged to prepare myself to get myself to where I'm at today. And I'm like, what does this mean looking in the other direction? When I start looking in the future, what does this picture look like? If I'm playing off of the context of what's gone on in the past, where is this building up to what's going to become the future of where I'm at, of where I'm going, right? And when you start understanding that, when you start to put these little pieces together of this puzzle, you start to see different things that happen in your life as like opportunities and growth points instead of, oh, woe me and sad me and all this stuff. You start to appreciate all these things that are happening. It's incredible, right? When your mind opens up to this, you really start to appreciate these little moments, these things that happen. Like everything starts changing and shifting in your mindset. I know I talked about this once before, but Jason Capital talked about a story of a stone cutter, right? And the concept is while you may be doing things every day, you may not see results, but in the end, something great is coming, right? Something better is coming. And in the story of the stone cutter, what it is it's this guy. We'll talk. I always put it in my head in a medieval setting, but whatever you may be in your head. But this guy splits these stones, and inside these stones are these beautiful gems and untold riches, right? But in order to get to it, like these stones cannot be broken, right? They're almost impossible to break. But if you hit it enough times and you have enough persistence, it will work, right? It'll almost guarantee to work. And what happens is this guy's hitting this stone, and he hits it and he hits it and he hits it all day after day. He's almost like got a sledgehammer, and he's just nailing this stone, right? Just strike after strike after strike on this stone, and nothing's changing, right? It looks like nothing's happening. People walk up and they're like, what are you doing? You keep hitting it and nothing has happened to this, and you've been doing it for days now. And he's like, yeah, but every time I do it, I'm one step closer. And they look at him like he's crazy, right? Like he's just sitting there wasting a whole bunch of energy doing something that's never going to change. Well, he strikes and he strikes and he strikes. And on the 97th strike, it looks the same as the first. The 98th strike looks the same as the first. The 99th strike looks the same as the first. And then all of a sudden something crazy happens. He strikes it the 100th time, right? Now it could be the 100th, it could be the 113th, it could be the 1045th, right? It doesn't matter. The point is he strikes it that one last time. He just continues to go, right? When he gets his hands are bleeding and enough people keep telling him to give up and to stop doing it, and he's crazy for what he's doing. And he doesn't, there's no results, there's no progress being made, but he keeps going anyway. All of a sudden, on that 100th time, it cracks open, and the jewels and the gems and everything that are inside this rock are there. And it just is the most beautiful thing, right? And all his hard work pays off. Think about how that can translate in your life. Think about how what you're going through right now in your own personal journey translates to this stonecutter. I can tell you right now, starting business after business, I know very much so that while it may seem like nothing is happening, what's happening instead, it's like Thomas Edison said, you're learning 999 ways to not make the light bulb. But as soon as you stick with it and you persist and you get to that 1000th time, boom, you've hit it. And you've completely changed your life or the world, right? Depending on what you're trying to do. But you're learning all of these lessons on how not to do something, or you're learning all these lessons on how to make what you're doing better. And eventually what's going to happen is it's going to break open and your whole world is going to change based on you continuing to persist. Elon Musk, right? This guy is trying to go to Mars, right? Go to the moon, build a base, and then go to Mars from there. Change the world, change the universe, right? Impact planets. And he has gone through his share of failures, right? If you look back at his track history and all the things that he's done, like Tesla, SpaceX, all this stuff, massive, colossal failures. I mean, like test rockets that have been blowing up and just time after time after time. But he didn't give up, right? He knew that what he had, he could make it work. And he trusted himself, and he knew, I'm just learning little ways of things on how I can improve and do it better. The important thing to note here is Elon Musk gets out of his own way. If the current is going one direction, and you're so dedicated and you're swimming and you're going to make it, you're going to get all the way there, and all of a sudden it shifts and it goes in a different direction, you're like, okay, I'm going to keep going. And you turn around and you go the other way, right? And you go the other direction. It's all about being under the understanding of the art of flow. Don't be so closed-minded and set that it has to go the way you perceive it to be, right? Get out of your own way. Allow the universe to do its job. Accept the things that are happening to you and do your best every day to make a difference. Every day, do a tiny little thing to make a difference. That's what Elon Musk does, right? When he fails, he understands, okay, maybe this isn't going, like maybe since this happened, I envisioned this result being like where we're going to go. But now that this didn't work, I have to detach myself from the expectation that that is what I want it to be. And maybe I have to accept that, okay, now in order to get to the same state, we have to go in a totally different direction. Maybe instead of calling a Falcon 9 booster or something, it never leaves Earth's orbit, and we have to do something different. We have to make it a giant floating ball instead, because that's the best way to do it, right? I don't know what it is, but that's an example of what I'm saying. He has this vision of what he wants it to be, or what he thinks it will be, but he's detached from it having to be that way, from the expectation that it must be that, and he's open to, well, if the best thing is that has to be this giant floating orb, then all right, I guess we're this giant floating orb, and then it works, and then it goes, right? You know how many test boosters he had fail and land in the ocean before the first one landed on a drone ship? And now he's got the first booster to complete 6 successful return flights. Like, that's incredible. But it didn't work the first, 20, 30 times. The first 20, 30 times, spent a lot of money at the bottom of the ocean, right? So it's understanding when you translate this into your own life, detach yourself from the expectation that something has to happen a certain way and be able to understand the art of Taoism, the art of flow, and allow the flow of the universe to predict, and what the hell am I trying to say? Depict, there you go, tough words. But allow the universe to depict the path that it needs to go for you. And you do your best every day at pursuing that path. Be able to detach, right? I thought I wanted to do, I had a really cool business idea and I really wanted to take off. Had a lot of energy behind it, had a lot of people that were supporting it and all this stuff. But time and time and time again pointed to, hey, this is not a good time for you to do this. This is not a good time. Like there were just things that were lining up that were very, very critical to it that were like, this may not be a good time. Doesn't mean to give up on it, but put it on the back burner. Focus on the things that you and your heart know are probably the right things that you need to be focusing on, and then come back to it when the time is appropriate. And if I were to continue to pursue that, right, it's very difficult to understand and to identify what is your conscious and what, what's worth pushing through and what's, not. But always go into yourself, always go into your gut, your heart, right? That's the universe telling you what the right answer is. And I knew for me, the right answer is, okay, this needs to go on the back burner. I need to focus on these other things first. And then when the time is right, there'll be a great opportunity. I can come back at it and that'll be good, right? So the time is not right now for this particular idea. So I did all the planning, I did all the sequencing, I did all the lining up of materials and products and all this stuff. So everything's ready to go. So when I am ready for it, all I have to do is make a couple phone calls and it's happening. It's all ready to go. But I've let go of the idea, right? I've let go of this concept of where this has to work and this has to be now and it has to be this divine, this timing is now. No, right? And I had to accept that. I had to accept, hey, Josh, maybe you need to slow down. This is not the thing we need to be focusing on right now. Let's do something. Let's focus on this other thing that you've got prioritized And we'll come back to that when the time is right. But right now, if you give it the attention, and that's the thing, right? If I were to push through it and ignore the universe and get off my path, then maybe what it would look like is I continue to push and I continue to drive and I can try and make this the thing. And then all of a sudden it goes under, it plunders, I go into bankruptcy. Like all these things happen, right? That shouldn't have happened. And that's because I pushed when I shouldn't have pushed. I didn't listen to the universe and I didn't stick on my path. Instead, I veered off my path because I was attached to this concept of what I thought it had to be. So translate that same thing into your own life. What you're doing in your own life, is it something that you're allowing the universe to flow with you through it? Or are you forcing it, and are you trying to do something that you and your heart feel like isn't right, but you're just going anyway? It's tough, right? It is hard. Trust me, it is very difficult, because one time you're saying, don't give up and keep going, and another time you're saying, change your mind and shift off. It's very, very tough to delineate what the differences are between the two. The thing is when the universe is telling you this is right, that's the one that you continue to go and you continue to give up on. And how do you know the universe is telling you? It's because it feels right? You'll feel this in your gut, right? There's this gut feeling that this is the right thing to do. This is the time to do it and all this stuff. It may make you feel weird, may make you feel odd, but at the same time, this is the right thing. I talked about my sister buying a house. I can't tell you how many times I've told her that she needs to buy a house, but all of a sudden I came into her life again just a couple weeks ago when I saw her visiting my other sister's house. And I talked to her again about buying the house. And I'm like, what is it that's stopping you? And I was asking all these questions, and I translated it to this story of the fisherman drowning at sea and going to the gates and be like, God, why don't you send anybody? And he's like, hey, dumbass, I did. Sent 3 boats. You ignored all of them, right? I told her this story. Well, you know it's divine timing and you know it's right, because then she opened the book and she was reading something on the flight and it kicked in, right? That story was there. And she's like, holy shit, Josh, look at this, And I'm like, Bree, I'm telling you, that's the sign, right? She doesn't want to do it. She's scared to do it, but she knows in her heart now that this is the right thing to do. This is something she needs to do because it's aligned for her, right? It's the universe putting her on her path. And the different people that are there to put her on her path are in her life. So she's just learning to understand that. But that's an example of when you know, you know. When you know it's something you need to pursue, it's something you need to pursue. So take that with you. Take that with you and let me know what you guys think. But I appreciate you guys for listening to this one. I really think this needed to get out there because sometimes we get caught up in the world and we get caught up in our own head and we force things that aren't necessarily needed to be forced. We have to understand that there's a flow and the universe has a plan for us. And when we accept that and we look back at our lives and we understand the times where we let go and we let the universe take over, those are the most magical times in our lives, and that's when we transform the most. So I want to help you guys do that. I want to help you guys transform too. So using the lessons I've learned and all those things, hopefully this helps. Let me know if there's more that I can touch on. But other than that, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.